The Five Nights at Freddy's movie was an unimaginable success, being the highest-grossing horror movie of 2023, and an instant cult classic for fans of this indie horror series to adore. And ever since then, it seems like every single indie and mascot horror game is having a film based on it being made. Chances are you don't even know about all of them because there are that many. Today, I'm simply going to discuss these announcements, give some predictions, and also give my opinion on if they'll be good or not. I'll be starting with the ones you guys probably have heard of and get more obscure as the video progresses. This will be another fun but laid-back video, so let's get into it. So I'm sure you all know that Bendy is getting a movie. The film is being made by Radar Pictures, who's probably best known for their reboot of Jumanji. That was all we knew about it for a good while, but then it was revealed the adaptation would be directed by Andre Averdal, who did The Autopsy of Jane Doe, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and likely most known by you guys, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's immediately a good sign that this director has experience with the horror genre. Although I quite like the current state of Bendy, my complaint with the previous releases would be that they are not scary enough, so I'm hoping that this film could deliver us some good scares. But here's the one major reason I'm not super hyped for this movie. It's most definitely not animated. Radar Pictures doesn't make animated films, so why would this be their first? And I personally would just really like an animated Bendy movie over a live-action one. I think there's so much more you can do with the iconic and integral cartoonish style. With that being said, I think the Bendy movie has a pretty high chance of being good. Bendy's story is much easier to boil down than the FNAF story, and that one turned out solid, so with enough care, I think Bendy could be a worthwhile film. Next up, let's talk about Poppy Playtime. Now, this movie was first announced in April 2022, which is insane because only 2 chapters of the game were out at the time. And that alone, truth be told, has me concerned. I think that the popularity of Poppy Playtime got studios a little too excited right off the bat, and you have to question how much care the property is being treated with if they were willing to rush into something that quickly. With that being said, we didn't get an update for roughly 2 years, and the film doesn't seem to be coming out anytime soon, so hopefully it is in fact being treated with that care. In 2024, it was confirmed that the Poppy Playtime movie would be developed by Legendary Pictures, and that is genuinely a massive green flag. This studio has done films such as Dune, the Minecraft movie, Godzilla vs. Kong, Detective Pikachu, and Jurassic World. These guys are the real deal, and knowing the studio that's behind the Poppy Playtime adaptation actually gives me really high hopes for it. I think what Poppy needs is really standout special effects, and this studio could deliver the hell out of that. But at the end of the day, unlike Bendy and the Ink Machine or Bendy and the Dark Revival, Poppy Playtime is still an incomplete game. Therefore, the story is up in the air, and it's not clear what the movie is really going to be about. And that's, you know, pretty important. I'm excited for this movie, but still cautiously optimistic. Following Poppy Playtime, let's talk about a film with a big name behind it. Iron Lung, directed by and starring Markiplier. This is an interesting one for me, because I could not give a shit about Iron Lung. I think that Iron Lung might just be the absolute most overrated indie horror game of all time. The atmosphere of that game cannot carry how unbelievably boring and uninteresting it is. However, we're talking about Markiplier up on the big screen, and that is something I am very excited to see. Iron Lung takes place in a future where humanity has colonized space and you play as a convict who explores an ocean of blood in a tight, cramped, rusty submarine called the Iron Lung. The game itself takes place entirely within the Iron Lung and just has you navigating the environment, which is why I am not hyped for this movie. Visually, the game is very plain and boring, and although the premise could be an interesting story, the setting is very dull in the game. I am just hoping that it's significantly more interesting and creative in the film adaptation. And I do have hope for this film. Markiplier is not just a Let's Play YouTuber. He is a genuine creative with such an impressive arsenal of skills. After seeing what he's done with previous projects, I think he is ready to take on a feature film, and I'm excited to see what he does with it. Iron Lung isn't at the top of my most anticipated indie horror film adaptations because I don't particularly like the game, but I'm excited to see my boy Mark doing his thing. Now let's talk about a game we all know and love, Dark Deception. Last September, it was confirmed that Dark Deception would be getting a film adaptation from indie studio So It Goes Entertainment. If you've never heard of them, that's because this is single-handedly the biggest thing they've ever done. They've made music videos and mini documentaries, it seems, but I'll be real, this doesn't give me the highest of hopes, but I suppose any indie studio needs to start somewhere. I have no idea how to feel about a Dark Deception movie. On one hand, I think Dark Deception's story sucks, and it has an unlikable protagonist and unlikable characters in general. On the other hand, Vince Living's, as complicated of a figure as he may be, is a very passionate guy that I imagine would put his whole heart into this project. However, he isn't even listed as a writer. On the other hand, Dark Deception isn't even fucking finished, so much like Poppy Playtime, what are we even talking about? You guys know I don't like Dark Deception, so I'm not exactly hyped for this movie, but I'm sure its cult-like community is excited by this news, and it very well could turn out good. Alright, let's talk about one I've become weirdly invested in, the upcoming Hello Neighbor movie. Now, I cannot stress this enough. The Hello Neighbor movie has a shockingly high chance of being good. The film is being developed by Boulder Light Pictures, who exclusively makes genuine and graphic horror movies. The film is being co-written by Tyler McIntyre, who literally co-wrote the FNAF movie. The guy who made the film that all these other films are trying to be like is literally working on this one. And as you know, if you're not new to this channel, the Hello Neighbor story can be truly entertaining. The show based on the Hello Neighbor series is genuinely fantastic. And the games are getting better too. Hello Neighbor 3 is looking pretty damn great, and 2 was pretty solid as well despite being unfinished. I don't know how I feel about a live-action Hello Neighbor adaptation because so much of Hello Neighbor is propped up by its style, but this movie could genuinely be really interesting, and I'm low-key excited for it. Now for handedly the weirdest adaptation to be announced, the Finding Frankie movie. This shocking announcement confirmed that the film would be developed by 13 Films, and lo and behold, So It Goes Entertainment. It's been described as blending the thrilling intensity of Squid Game with the haunting atmosphere of Five Nights at Freddy's. Now don't get me wrong, I liked Finding Frankie, but a film adaptation seems off. Nothing about the game screams to me that it would be an interesting film because what makes that game so good is its gameplay. The story is very much secondary to simply being a fun game to play. But hey, what do I know? Maybe Finding Frankie has a really good story to tell that I just didn't entirely pick up on. I suppose the whole idea of this game show existing could have an interesting backstory. I'm interested to see how this one turns out. I'm just not totally hyped for it because Finding Frankie isn't as much of a mainstay in indie horror yet. That's pretty much it for mascot horror film adaptations, but the broader genre of indie horror still has a few that I'd like to talk about. The most critically acclaimed indie horror title, Outlast, is getting a film adaptation, written by the series creator. Now this is exciting. Although Outlast on a technical level is somewhat of a masterpiece, I simply never fell in love with the game. Honestly, I've always thought it would work better as a movie. The gritty and realistic look of Outlast is great, but playing it isn't the most compelling experience in my opinion. But a movie about this investigative journalist going to this abandoned asylum with all these horrific murderous patients sounds like it could be totally awesome. Outlast is more than deserving of a film adaptation, and I think this one is going to be amazing. Lastly for this video, I wanted to give a mention to the lesser known but just as exciting film adaptation of The Mortuary Assistant. The Mortuary Assistant is an excellent indie horror game that's being turned into a movie by Epic Pictures. And out of every movie mentioned in this video, this one has the most information known on it. It's essentially confirmed for 2026, it stars Willa Holland and Paul Sparks, and it's being directed by the award-winning Jeremiah Kipp. The Mortuary Assistant tells a riveting story about loss and grief in a really unique way, so I think this one will be a genuinely great movie. So that's all I have to talk about in this video. If I manage to miss a movie based on an indie horror game that's coming out, let me know. Also, there is a Dead by Daylight movie in the works from Blumhouse. I didn't mention it because DBD is no longer indie, but yes, that's a thing. And of course, FNAF Movie 2 is coming out very soon, and that's exciting. It looks pretty damn good. I just wanted to focus on first-time indie horror titles. Let me know in the comments down below which of these movies you're most excited for. I really want to hear from you guys. For me, it's probably The Mortuary Assistant. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and comment down below. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.